Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book haul for the month of May 2024. I have 21 books to talk with you about. I have 10 books that were sent to me by publishers. I have 2 books that were sent to me by a fan of the channel, and then I have I think 9 books that I purchased in the month. So I didn't purchase that many, to be honest, but I have a lot of books that have been sent to me this month. So let's go through all of those. The first book that I purchased, I'll talk about the purchased ones first, is Heroes Die by Matthew Woodring Stover. This is a fantasy novel by Matt Stover. I have read some of his Star Wars novels, and he's really popular among the Star Wars crowd. And I thought, I'll give him a chance as a fantasy writer, because other Star Wars novelists like Kevin Anderson and Mike Stackpole have written great fantasy works that I've really enjoyed. And Timothy Zahn wrote science fiction I really enjoy, so I'm like, I'll try another thing from him. So this is his fantasy novel. I know that Patrick Leo raves about Heroes Die. He raves about this book so much, so I'm very excited to see if I enjoy it. So there's that one. I also purchased another John Grisham book. This one's really short. It's titled Skipping Christmas. This is not a legal thriller or anything. It's more of a humorous book, and this is from the movie was made based off this book. The movie's Christmas with the Cranks, and I really enjoy the movie. And I figured, this will be a fun, short read around Christmas time. It'll be something I could probably read in a day. It's only like 220 pages, and it's got pretty large print, so I'm excited to get into that one. I also purchased another short book. This is Star Trek The Captain's Daughter by Peter David. This is a Star Trek novel featuring Hikaru Sulu and his daughter, who we saw in Generations, and of course his ship, the Excelsior, which is such a great ship in Star Trek. And Peter David is one of the authors that has the most books in Star Trek, and people love him. So I was like, I'm going to get more of his books, see if I enjoy them. So there's that one that I purchased. That's my only Star Trek purchase of the month. I also bought a Tor novel by David Weber titled By Schism Rent Asunder. This is the second book in the Safehold series that Weber did. Most of his stuff's been over at Bane, but he does have this big science fiction series over at Tor. And I think, David Weber's a great author, and I've heard this is a very different series than his others. The first book I already had on my bookshelves. That's Off Armageddon's Reef, and so this is the second book by Schism Rent Asunder, and it's a decent beefy book. It's about 700 pages, so that'll take a little while to read. I also purchased Spellbound, which is the second book in the Grim Noir Chronicles by Larry Correia. I already had purchased the first book with the intent to read it eventually, but Bane sent me a reprint of the third book, so I was like, you know what, may as well get the second book. Excited to read this one. I also purchased a book by Maurice. Actually, I'm going to skip that one for a second. The Medusa Chronicles by Stephen Baxter and Alastair Reynolds. I've heard good things about Alastair Reynolds' writing, and it's a science fiction novel. It's got classic sci-fi looking ship there, maybe Jupiter in the background. So I'm really excited to see if this one's entertaining. This is from Gonzalez, which is a British publisher, and I knew that the second I picked up the book because it's a different size than most American books, and when you open it up and you look at the font design, it is absolutely a British book. So I have this one to read, and I'm hoping that I enjoy it. This one's also not terribly long. It's only like 300 pages, but it's pretty small print. So we'll see how I feel about that. Now, I also bought some historical fiction. A couple of months ago, I picked up, based off of some booktubers' recommendations, The Pillars of the Earth. And I loved Pillars of the Earth. It's probably my favorite book I've read this year so far. And so I was like, I'm going to pick up more books that these booktubers recommend in historical fiction. Booktubers like Brian Lee Durfee and Red Fury Books in particular were my inspirations. And Red Fury Books has talked a lot about this series, The Iron King by Maurice Druon. This is the first book in this series. The title, or the cover blurb says the original Game of Thrones from George R. R. Martin. This is apparently a very similar story that George pulled some ideas from. I believe this is following a French kingdom, and I'm really excited to read historical fiction that's got that kind of political edge to it, that's, set in the Middle Ages and seems like a Game of Thrones, but without magic. It's just a straight up historical fiction. This one's pretty short. It's only 330 pages, but I'm excited to get to it. And then I also purchased, based off of both Red Fury Reviews recommendation and Brian Lee Durfee's recommendation, Umberto Eco's The Name of the Rose. I always think this is The Name of the Wind. No, Name of the Rose, which is a mystery set in the medieval times. And I'm very excited to read this one. I actually was just at my school talking with a substitute who was subbing for another teacher, and she was telling me how her son read The Name of the Rose, and he loves it so much. And I was like, oh, cool, I have someone to talk to about this. So I'm very excited for that. Then I purchased the book Shigiri and the Brass Head of Obalufon, however you pronounce it. Shigiri, that's the book I bought. This is by Wold Lobby. This book came highly recommended by Joelle Presby, who is a friend of mine who is an author. She wrote the Dalbury Snake Launcher, and she's, I really value her opinion on books, and she recommended me read this, as did another friend of mine who is in the publishing space, Sean Korsgaard. And so I was like, you know what? I'll give this book a try. So I went out and bought it, and I'm looking forward to reading it eventually. I also, so now going into the two books that a fan sent me, I had someone reach out to me and they said, I got these books and the font size was too small for me to read. So I went and got the ebook to read it as an ebook. He said, so I don't need the print books anymore. And this fan, who is someone I've interacted with online before, said, I know you are trying to get a hold of this series because it's really expensive and hard to find books in this series. He said, do you want these books? And I said, yes, absolutely. And so he sent me the first two books in the Christopher Rocchio Sun Eater series. The first book, Empire of Silence, and the second book, Howling Dark. These are both from Daw Books. And I'm very excited to get into both of these. I've heard great things about this series, nothing but great things. Just about, actually, ironically, this one person that sent it to me is the only person I've seen post something negative about this series. Anyway, so that's, I'll use his first name, Jeremy. Jeremy, thank you so much for sending me these books. I'm very excited to get to them. They're beefy books, but I'm very excited to read these. Probably in the fall is my guess. Fall or winter at the latest. I really want to start in the winter. So, and maybe if I start in the winter, I'll have it done in time to read the seventh book when it releases. So, now for the books that publishers sent me. I did have a publisher reach out to me. I believe it was the publicist at the publisher, or maybe it was the editor, but I had someone reach out to me and they said, would you be interested in reading this book? And I said yes, and then I went a long time without hearing anything. And then all of a sudden, boom, the book showed up on my doorstep, and I was super excited for it. And that is The Judas Blossom by Stephen Arion. This book is not one that I would on my own go out and purchase, but I'm trying to expand my horizons, and this is a newish release last year, start of a new trilogy. I was like, I don't want to just read old, I want to read new stuff as well. And also I want to break out and do other publishers. I want to check to see which publisher this is, because it had a unique name. This is Angry Robot Publishing, which is distributed through Random House. So I'm excited to read this book and give my review, and maybe I'll read book 2 if I enjoy book 1 enough. I was also sent a book by Gallery Books, which is titled Star Trek: The Next Generation Pliable Truths. My video review is already out of this book. I really enjoyed it. I think that Dayton Ward is a terrific author, and I actually interviewed him for Literary Treks. And so that video is already, or that interview, it's an audio interview, is already out. Just look up the podcast Literary Treks. Matt Rushing and I both were the hosts of that. And Gallery was very nice to send me a copy of this so I could read it. And now, Bane Books actually sent me a lot of books this month, so let me go through all of those. First, I have Salvage Right by Sharon Lee and Steve Miller. This is a reprint of a book that released last year. This is I think the 25th Leodin novel and their 100th collaboration. And Steve Miller sadly died earlier this year. But he wrote a lot of books with his wife Sharon Lee, and I am interested in getting into the Leodin universe. So I have this one now, and I need to get the first 24. I was also sent The Wentel File by David Weber and Jacob Hollow. I actually have the first book in this series, which is the Gordian Protocol series, and I think the series is called A Gordian Division. And I've really enjoyed David Weber's writing, and I like following Jacob Hollow and his wife HP online. And so I was like, you know what? I am excited that they sent me that, because I do want to read it eventually. They also sent me Tim Akers' new book, The Eccentrics. This is the third book in his Night Watch series. I actually interviewed Tim earlier this month, so if you look up, actually it was last month, but if you look up Tim Akers' interview, Jonathan Cohn, you'll find the video. We talk about this series, the Night Watch series, and his Wraithbound book from the Spiritbinder saga. So they sent me this book, and I'm excited to read it eventually. I need to get book 2. I was also sent a short story collection, Black Tide Rising, edited by John Ringo and Gary Poole, with a bunch of other authors that collaborated and brought in short stories for this. This is part of the Black Tide Rising series of books, and I'm excited to get into this series. Although I had one of the authors reach out to me, not of this book, but of another book, and say, hey, I'm hoping you'll read my book that's coming out this year. And I said, can it be my first book in the series? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So that one is coming out later this year in October, I think. So I'll read that then. Interesting cover. Next, I'm running out of space. I also have the book Admiral and Commander, a Terran Republic book by Charles E. Gannon and Chris Kennedy. This is part of their Terran Republic series. This is actually the second Terran Republic book they've sent me, and I love these covers. I believe Kurt Miller did these covers. I'm going to check just to verify that I'm correct, because I don't want to say the wrong name. Yep, Kurt Miller did this cover, and he did gorgeous cover here. I love this cover. This is what I want my science fiction covers to look like. So I really am happy with that one, and I'm excited to get into the book. I was also sent the third Grim Noir book. You see the difference in Grim Noir books. The second one looked like this. Third one looks like this. But it's okay. I purchased this one, so that one's on me. And the first one I have like this. But now that I do have all three, I do want to get into reading all three of the Grim Noir books, because it comes highly recommended by a lot of my friends and fellow readers. They also sent me some hardcovers. Bane sent me Hide and Seek, which is by Simon R. Green. It's the second book in Jekyll and Hyde. It's a really short book. It's only like 220 pages, barely. Yeah, 226 pages. It's super short. So if I ever get to this, it'll be a quick read. And then of all the books that Bane sent me this month, the first one I'll get to and I'm most interested in is John Ringo's Beyond the Ranges. This is a science fiction novel by him, his first in quite a few years, and he's co-writing it with James A.D., who I don't know anything about. But I read John Ringo's Troy Rising series, his Live Free or Die books, and I enjoyed them, so I'm willing to give him more shots. And this is the first in the series, I'm like, hey, that's a good shot that I'll enjoy it. So that is, and I actually like this cover too. This is a pretty nice design. It's a little bit more abstract than I'd prefer the cover to be, but it's still pretty nice. Let me see who did the cover here. Bob Eggleton. Oh, Bob Eggleton. He's great. I love Bob Eggleton. So that is that cover. So that is the 21 books that I purchased in the month of, or received from publishers in the month of May. So if you've read any of these, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And if you're interested in reading any of these, let me know that as well. Are you excited to get to any of these? And please subscribe to the channel, like the video. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.